150 refugees a year. That is our current quota in New Zealand. The figure hasn't changed since 1987, and it puts New Zealand 90th in the world when it comes to the number of refugees per capita. The government is under some pressure to do more, with Amnesty International urging us to boost that figure by double. Prime Minister John Key joins me now. John, good morning to you.
Morning, Paul.
Great to have you here. Let's talk about that, because we had the global head of Amnesty International's in the country. Yeah. I spoke to him here. I know he went to talk to you. It seems reasonable, their expectation that we double our current intake, but you're not having a bar of it, are you?
Well, for a start off, yes, it's 750, but we have family reunification, so the numbers actually swell to thousands. So it's not 750. And I think it's 3,000 or 4,000 off the top of my head, but it varies depending on who comes. The second thing is that we get very, very high marks by all the people that look at what we actually do, much higher than almost everybody else in terms of what we do. So yes, some countries take more people, but they pretty much dump them out there with not much support. We give them the ultimate wraparound service. We give them a Housing New Zealand home. We give them education and sort of language services. We obviously give them financial support. I mean, we give them huge support from
But that's all part of the argument that Amnesty International use, that we should be taking more, because they're saying we just are so good at it and we are capable of doing that for a greater number of people.
Yeah, so the Mangere Detention Centre, which is where they go, obviously not because they're detained, but because it's a big facility, has been going through a big remodelling. I mean, the question is, can we handle more and do a good job, or do we sort of start degrading the quality of what we do?
Well, the experts think that we can. The experts think the answer to that question is yes, we can handle more and we can continue to do a brilliant job. Are you looking at this currently?
Well, it's always one of those things that, gets reviewed. I think there's a sort of thing every so often they look at it. My general view has been we're sitting about the right place, and we have been for a very long period of time. Yep, and I understand the arguments that people say we can do more, but if you look at it, I think it's far better for us to do an outstanding job with those people that come, rather than say, okay, we're just going to take
And I'm sure people would agree that that's true, but the argument is that we can handle more, and this is a figure that hasn't changed since 1987,
No.
and the landscape globally has changed significantly since then.
Yeah, and I understand that argument. I mean, it's a question of whether, ultimately, some political parties seem to think we should go to 1,000. I mean, in the scheme of things, there's a discussion about whether there's 52 million homeless people, or whether there's
we're talking about another boat full of people, that's all.
Well,
yeah. There's one other aspect that I wanted to touch on with this, and again, it was talking to the head of Amnesty International, who said that, we've got to be very careful that we don't just talk the talk, we've got to walk the walk as well. And he said we did a lot of talking the talk to try and get on the Security Council, which we did, and we're now not really following through with what we said we would do.
Yeah, I don't accept that argument at all. I mean, if you look at the pitch that we had for the Security Council, it was to be, a voice that listened and actually spoke up for small island states. Well, we're doing that absolutely. Go and have a look at our voting record at the Security Council and what we've been proposing. It's been exactly what we actually said we would do. We made some commitments around things like agricultural diplomacy and the likes for countries. We're working on that.
But in terms of our humanitarian call, and with regard to refugees, you think we are walking the walk?
Yeah, and our humanitarian position is I think, top of class. I mean, you can always take more. Australia's taken 20,000. They've taken them for a long period of time. It has been, bigger per capita, not just over
significantly bigger than us per capita,
but previous governments. But the question is, are they doing as good a job as integrating people, giving them the support, making sure that they can actually cope in a new environment, like Australia?
And the answer to that clearly is no. The answer to that is clearly
no.
I think
they're not doing as well as us. Good job here,
Absolutely.
And I'd just rather focus on that.
Well, we talk about Australia just very quickly, talking refugees there. It seems now it's been accepted that the Australians, that the Abbott government is now paying those that are trying to bring illegal migrants to Australia, paying them to turn the boats around. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know that they are. I can come read the paper and see that apparently they did, and previous governments have.
It seems that they have.
Well, it's a matter for them. I don't critique that any more than I would critique Australian tax policy.
So you're not prepared to say what you think about that? Because personally, I am appalled that the government will deal with those people.
Well, that's, as I said,
that are trading in such a heartless trade.
You remember last week, as I said to you, you can make the case both ways. I mean, this is the issue. Once a boat gets in your territorial waters, there's nothing you can do. I mean, people will tell you there is, and we've been doing a lot of work, as you know,
what I mean? To hand money over to people smugglers.
Well, that's the problem, I think, with doing that, is that you are paying the very people that you find actions abhorrent. And so that is a problem. And also it's slightly double dealing because the people who've actually paid them to go on the boat. So
absolutely.
what sort of people are we dealing with? They're taking money both ways. But the point is, it's not my policy. It's not what the New Zealand government does. It's what they do. And we just don't get into a run of commentary on that.
Did you dodge a bullet with Colin Craig?
Well,
you could so easily have done a deal with him, and you would have been tarred with some of this.
Well, we
nonsense.
decided not to, and
are you glad?
Maybe that was a good call. Look, I don't know. I mean, the thing here is you just don't know how all the stuff's going to play out. I mean, he's been the massive funder of the party. Without them, can they raise the sort of resources?
But it's clearly a cot case now, isn't it?
Well, today maybe it's in a little bit of trouble, but ultimately, what happens? We're 2.5 years from the election. It's a long way to go.
It is. I mean, but it's still it's a lot of votes as well. I mean, conservatively, it's 3.5% of the vote. You would want that. You don't want that to slip away to Winston Peters.
No, but again, we're 2.5 years away from the election. We've won 3 elections with the partners we've had at the moment, and who knows? I mean, those Conservative voters, if there was not as strong a force, because I'm sure there'd be a Conservative party, but if there's not quite as strong a voice, they may well come back to us, because some of those people may have been national voters who said, look, I'll go there for just to give us a coalition partner.
All right, John, thank you very much. Have a good week.
No problems.
All right, take care. John Key, Prime Minister, just ahead.